Good evening, PGA DFS fans. Welcome to the Live Before Lot show on the Awesemo YouTube channel. I'm here with my co-host, Ben Rasa, on this beautiful May the 4th day. As Ben and I were just talking a little bit about Star Wars before we came on. Don't worry, everybody. I've got my cups all ready to go for tonight's show. And Darth Vader is going to be bringing us the picks once again. As Ben, I bring you on a big week for you. I mean, all you got to worry about is that Rory McIlroy is playing in the field because we've got the Derby on Sunday as well. So a lot going on in your camp this week.
No doubt, it's a great time. Love the Derby. Love the playoff hockey, playoff basketball.
Is the Derby your favorite of the three?
What, the Derby?
The Kentucky, yeah, the Kentucky.
Yeah, I think so. It's just it's the first one, and there's a lot of unknowns, so I love it. We of course have, I will say right now, we've got videos up on the OddsChecker YouTube. If you're betting the Derby, go over there, watch that video. Picked my horses, picked my ponies. I do want to ask you, what the hell is Moon Knight?
Yeah, dude.
I don't even know what that is. No joke. What is that?
All right, okay. So, Disney Plus has come out with a bunch of Marvel shows instead of Marvel movies. All right, so Moon Knight is a character that they kind of like tried to base it off of to be their Batman. He's this really rich guy, but he's got this like dissociative personality disorder. I probably said that right. Dissociative identity personality disorder. In any case, he's got like 3 different personalities, and he's taken over by the Egyptian Moon Knight god. And there's no other like superheroes in it. It's its own story. It's awesome, dude. It's like a psychological thriller with a little bit of superhero stuff mixed in. It's pretty solid.
Sorry I asked in some ways, but I'm kind of intrigued. There you go. A little golf and a little Moon Knight. I'm going to Google that after the show.
Yeah, for sure. If you like Egyptian god stuff, there's a lot of that involved with it. So
come on now.
I don't know if you get involved with that, but I'm sure you do get involved with a little bit of golfers this week and rostering them. And also get involved with producing some Awesemo Plus content that you're going to get on the Platinum side. And Ben, we've got a deal for everybody this week. 7 days of Awesemo Plus Platinum for $7. Believe it or not, that's 77% off our original price. And all you got to do is use promo code Luca as the Mavericks have moved on in the playoffs here. So check that out. Join us on the other side. It's a great time. Absolute amazing time to be on the Awesemo Plus side. We've got so many sports going on. Ben just mentioned the Kentucky Derby coming up and the PGA Championship and a couple millionaire makers on the PGA DFS side coming up in just 2 weeks. So join us here, check us out, see what we're all about. And then when the major comes along, you'll be ready to rock and roll. All right, let's talk about first. We hate to start off with a negative, and we just talked about Moon Knight. So we're good now to talk a little bit about the weather that's expected this week. It's not going to be pretty there in the Northeast, heading up through Philly, where people were supposed to be this weekend. We're in the Potomac, and it doesn't look good, Ben.
It doesn't. Could be nasty. Could be a little windy. So I guess the question is, that's step one. Step two is it actionable? Is there something that we can do in our lineup building to give us an edge? And our new tool with the weather splits certainly is going to be where I'm looking to do that. What are you thinking, though? AM, PM, PM, AM, a little mix and match. How do you think you go about this?
Yeah, so the last time that I think I really tried to dive into a weather split and play it fully on my week-long entries was the Players' Championship. And basically the worst case scenario played out. They didn't play enough golf for the bad wave to get the bad weather, or what I would say the wave that I faded. So with that being said, the way it looks with weather, with rain certainly in the forecast, maybe even some lightning there, I don't know if we can play it, Ben. I think what you do is, if you want to stack waves, that's fine. I'm cool with that. Just make sure you stack on both sides, and we'll talk about a couple of those players. Right now, as we don't have many withdrawals to talk about, Pat Perez and Sung Yul No will not be teeing it up this week. But in the AM wave, we've got a couple of good guys going out first. Kevin Chappell, Brandon Hagee, and Jonathan Bird. Jonathan Bird shared the first round lead last week. Can he do it again this week, or would you rather say Doug Gim may be ready to take that mantle, or drop down to say even Rory McIlroy, all part of this AM PM wave?
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Bird, when he does get starts, he honestly does play very well. I'd be a lofty task to do it again. Yeah. I'm going to save some Kevin Chappell takes for later in the show, but he is going out early, as you alluded to. And I do think targeting some of those guys in those first early waves is good on your first round leader card. Doug Gim is that type of player. I think that we've kind of shown, and you do fantastic showdown content. He's a frequent guy in those articles because for 18 holes, when he gets it going, it's amazing. He just usually so far hasn't been able to sustain it for the full 72.
Yeah, great example. Last week, Friday, shot best round of the day, 6 under 65 to make the weekend after shooting a 1 over 72 in the opening round. So great point there. As we get into the stars of the morning, Straka, Finau, and Hatton are teamed up. McIlroy with Simpson and Molinari, followed by Answer, Leishman, and Connors. I want to focus on that last pairing for a moment. Abraham Answer losing almost 8 strokes around the green last week. Not short game, just around the green. How bad was his around the green play? And have you ever seen anything worse for 4 rounds? The Paul Casey at Augusta does not count, or I'm not sure exactly when that was. I think you know what I'm referring to, though. He put 2 in the water. Anyways.
Yeah, when he chipped over the hazard. I've never seen anybody clear a water hazard backwards. Paul Casey. And then he put it back in the water. That was an all-timer.
All-timer, it'll never be beaten.
No.
In any case, what do you make of something like that happens, though? I mean, the other stats look pretty good. Good course form, back in 2018. It's a lot of fairways. So one would think that if that goes away, he could be a good play this week.
Yeah, I mean, I do tend to say if it's something outrageous with one particular skill set, that's probably better than like issues across the board, because realistically, I mean, that's such an outlier. How much can we really read into it? He probably chipped into the water. He probably did some crazy things in bunkers. Everything else looked really good, including the putter. So I get it, but I am concerned of the long-term form of 2022 with Answer. It has not been good all year. And that is something for a player this good. He really needs to step up and start putting in top 10, top 20 finishes.
We said the same thing about Tony Finau last week, and he finally busted through and did exactly what we just talked about. Honestly, did most of the work on the weekend. Just 2 fantastic rounds. He did look great, except for his putter almost all week. So we'll talk about him. Now, as we move into the afternoon wave, Luke List, Sergio Garcia, Gary Woodland. We'll save Gary for myself for the end of this show as well. Max Homa, Ricky Fowler, Jason Day, Joel Damon's getting a pretty premier tee time. He's with Patrick Reed and Paul Casey, who is going to play this week, I guess. At least right now. Yeah. So withdrew from the Pro-Am, I believe, with Paul Casey, but all systems go. There's going to be probably some suppressed ownership because of the unknown, but there's obviously increased WD risk. So that's that balancing act that you take. I didn't love him to begin with, so I'm not really deterred in what I wanted to do. It's not a huge issue for me. Just weird. Doesn't play Augusta, but is going to tee it up at the Wells Fargo. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm seeing a couple of chats here. Justin, what's happening? Just came into the chat. Got a couple of other ones. Dan wants to know about Luke List as his last pick. Should he just burn his money? Well, let me tell you one thing first before I tell you to burn your money, Dan. Luke List is pretty good tee to green. If he matches the field in putting, this could be a good course for him this week. So there's a little tidbit of where we're going to go forward. So, all right, let's go into our rank 'em. We've set the stage on if you do want to stack, which I will do in some of my lineup building. I will stack some AM guys. I will stack some PM guys, and hopefully one of them gets the draw. I'm not going to do a lot of that, though. In my 150, maybe going to be like 20% stack of AM, 20% stack of PM, and 60% just totally mixed with no care about it. So just to set that. All right. So last week we did If Not Rom. And I think you and I kind of both agreed that Rom was a pretty easy play, given that his salary was probably $1,000 cheaper than it should have been. Came with a ton of ownership. You had one way or the other. Now, this week it's If Not Rory. But before we talk about that, Ben, I would say rostering Rory this week is probably a little easier than Rahm, given that he's not going to be 900% owned and owned by everybody.
Yeah, I do think there will be some like quote unquote buyer's remorse for people that maybe went against the grain with Rahm last week. And then you see him win and you're like, what? Why did I do that? Let me just go to Rory this week. But you mentioned we've got some of these big time players up here with Finau and Answer and Connors and these types. I'm going to go right back to Tony Finau. I think that, he was right there. He couldn't putt and he still found himself in second. And although Rahm won, that was the bigger problem for him. You could have paired them and Finau did his part. So I'm going to go right back to him. I'm very comfortable at 10-6 with Finau here.
Yeah, I think you just mentioned Answer. He hasn't been in his top form. I think the only reason why I'd pick Answer over Finau is because we're going to get 7 or 6% ownership on him, right? I mean, that's really the only argument there. For Corey Connors, it's probably a little bit of a different scenario. Connors has been playing very well lately, consistent golf. So I guess if I had to pick between Finau and Connors and I didn't, and salary didn't matter, maybe I'd go to Finau. If salary matters, though, I'm quite okay with going to Corey Connors. But maybe you'd rather go to a top-end Euro. Let's give you 3 names here of Tyrell Hatton, Matt Fitzpatrick, and could have put Sergio Garcia here, but I put Paul Casey instead. We'll use Garcia in the next one. So Hatton, Fitzpatrick, or Casey for you this week?
It's going to be Hatton over Fitzy over Casey. I just think that Ty Hatton, I've said this a lot this week, but I think it's really important. I almost separate what we saw at Augusta from all the rest of the results. He just doesn't like the course. And if you remove what he did at the Masters, it's been really good. 2nd, 13th, 21st, 26th, positive in the irons in every event, positive with the putter in every event. I think TPC Potomac will set up well there. Fitzy, horrible miscut at Heritage. I don't really know what happened. The stats were fine, but I'm going to go with Hatton of the 3 here.
He found a way to do it. Matt Fitzpatrick, 10K. He just really hasn't paid it off that much. Although he's played good this year at most of the times. Just 10K for me. I would not go there. Okay. Ball strikers. Keegan Bradley is 9,600. Not really sure where we get that from, Ben. He's matched up with Sergio Garcia and Gary Woodland in what I'd call our ball strikers rank 'em. So of these 3, is Keegan's price enough to keep you away from him, or is, say, Gary's form just too good to pass over?
Yeah, this is a tricky range here. So I get that Keegan, results-wise, deserves to be here, but I really have trouble with this price point. I think his lack of putting could really set him back when you're up this high. You really got to make some inroads to grab placement points at 96. I'm going to go to Sergio. I really like the spot for him. I know that might be a little different. He's more popular than I imagined, but at the same time, really good driver of the ball, consistently finding cuts. The putter randomly is hot right now. If he flips the irons, I think we could be in for a very good result. So although Gary Woodland sets up the best, give me Sergio over Woodland over Keegan.
Okay. I am Woodland over Garcia over Bradley. I just don't see it. I mean, it's not like you're getting 8% ownership on Bradley like you are Answer, and you're still getting a premium price. So I am totally okay going the other way there. All right. We just didn't mention 3 golfers that are priced at 9,000 or over. So we'll pair all 3 of these together. I call them the others above 9K. It's Mark Leishman, Russell Henley, and Patrick Reed. 3 golfers that, honestly, Ben, I don't think set up well for this golf course at all. None of them drive it straight. They're all, Henley is good with his irons, and Leishman and Reed, obviously, they get very hot with their short games. So do you want to play any of the 3? And if so, who?
I would like to experiment with Leishman. He's 40-1 in the outright market. I think you can sprinkle just because, and maybe it's just 72 holes that will kind of always stick out to me. But I saw Mark Leishman win a golf tournament and hit basically no fairways at the Farmers. He was able to do that. His short game, when he gets it going like that, he's very, very difficult to stop. So I don't mind the sprinkle there. I really don't have any interest in Patrick Reed. I have faded him the entire year. It hasn't burned me yet. Eventually it's going to, and I'll adjust, but I will not be going to Reed. Henley, I'm indifferent. If you like him, more power to you. Not a priority for me.
Now, I don't have a crystal ball. I cannot go backwards here. So this is going to be a tough question maybe for you to answer because you don't have one either. But had Patrick Reed not shot 41 on the back 9 on Sunday, let's say he shot 34, okay? He would have posted 13 under, got him inside the top 10. Does that change your mind if something like that happens? Or are you still like, you know what, at 7% ownership, it wouldn't have hurt me either. I'll stay with the fade.
Yeah, I mean, little things, they definitely start to impact, and eventually Reed's going to get it together, but I still look at the body of work. It's just not happening. It's not happening right now for Patrick Reed. He has not gained with both off the tee and the approach since July of 2021. It's just not working right now, and I don't know why it would change here. Listen, he's still pricey. He's a great player, and I do think Reed's going to be just fine long-term, but not any interest until he shows it consistently.
Okay, so reason I asked is because we now have somebody in the PGA DFS history. They have instituted what they call their shot-by-shot strokes gained stuff, and it's really cool. Not going to lie to you. And the reason I ask is because on the back nine of Sunday, Patrick Reed lost 3 strokes on the approach. Just on the back nine on Sunday. For the week, he lost 3.2 strokes on the approach. So for me, that says, okay, well, for what, 63 holes, he looked pretty good. Again, maybe that's not a reason to play him this week, but the low ownership again, still, will I have 10%? Yeah, I think I'm warming up to 10% of him. But when you have plays like, say, Max Homa at 8,600, who has done nothing but play pretty consistent golf this year, it's going to be hard for me to get to a lot of Reed, although he is in my player pool. I just wanted to make that clear. I think there are a few good reasons to play him here this week. And let's go on to Max Homa, because he's part of the higher-owned contingent here that I want to talk about. And maybe it's just really Homa and Cameron Young. Those are probably the 2 highest-owned guys. To a little lesser degree, Siwoo Kim and Matt Kuchar. So of those 4 higher-owned guys, are you okay with looking the other way on ownership for Homa and Young, or you think there's a point where the ownership threshold crosses and they turn into a possible fade?
So I think that Max Homa is a tougher one for me. One, I do think he's getting like the course history bump, even though that's not the thing. We're not playing at Quail Hollow. He is a winner there, and he's been playing good. So maybe I'm overrating where he would be at a different venue, as we of course are with Potomac. I just think Sergio being right there for me allows me to pivot, whereas Cameron Young, it's Cameron Young or Webb Simpson, Cameron Young or Matt Kuchar, Cameron Young or Aaron Rai. It's Cameron Young for me. So I'm going to eat that chalk. I think that he's shown his off the tee game is just so strong that he can carry it anywhere. I feel very good about him at flat 8.
I do too. Alex and I were actually talking exactly about Cameron Young earlier this week, our buddy Alex Baker here. And he was asking me, he's like, hey, was this guy good on the Korn Ferry Tour? I'm like, well, it's not that he wasn't good. It's just that he had similar results to, say, like a Sung J M when he was on that tour. How do you really know how good you are until you play against the best every single week? So for Young, it may take some time. I think that we've seen, though, I think he's on the clear path to top 5, maybe top 2 of Rookie of the Year discussion at this point. And that award doesn't just go to anybody if you look at the previous winners of it. So I think good things are ahead for Cameron Young, and this should be a great event for him to take advantage of. So I'm with you there. I'm also with you or with myself, I should say, on Max Homa. I like him a lot this week. Same price on the odds as well.
What are you doing with Kuchar, though? Because he's going to be popular, as you mentioned. I have a tough time really breaking it down. Some great finishes lately, but it was all with the putter.
So, when I think about golfers, and I look back at 2018, who won this event, and Francesco Molinari, and while I don't think he's the same golfer as he was then, I mean, Matt Kuchar has a lot of Francesco Molinari in his game, though. He, hits a lot of fairways. Molinari hit 91% of his fairways in 2018 here en route to his victory, 75% of his greens. Okay, well, that's what Kuchar can do. But man, 10 times out of 10, I'm going to take Cameron Young over Matt Kuchar. So I think that's the issue. And I would rather take Aaron Rai over Matt Kuchar. As good as Kuchar's been playing, Rai has been playing just as good. And you're going to get, what, a third of the ownership this week?
Yeah, definitely. And Aaron Rai is starting to get serious reps over here. He's getting consistent results in terms of finding the weekend. So it's not that I hate to play with Kuchar. You mentioned some of the similarities and profiles definitely lend itself to what we could see here. But at the same time, I'm okay getting away from some of that chalk. I'm not going to be overweight on him.
All right, let's go into loan. We just talked about Aaron Rai, so he's going to be part of our loan contingent of golfers I want to talk about. The other two are Jason Day and Seamus Power. You and I talked about Seamus Power around the Pebble Beach when he was leading it. We talked about him before that week and said, hey, we expect this guy to kind of be a contender at normal PGA Tour events. He's transferred his game or really transitioned his game, I should say, into a rather good player, but we haven't heard from him in a little bit. So is it time for him to pop back up? And at ownership that's pretty good looking, does he make your player pool this week?
I think that he is an interesting target because although he hasn't been great, and terrible by any stretch either. And he's gotten into big events because of that win, and he's made the cut at the Masters. He made the cut at the Players. So I actually don't mind him. I think the harder one for me is what to do with Jason Day. I think he's an interesting bet, but at the same time, his form has been awful lately. Once again, who knows if it's the back issues? Who knows if he's just simply not that good at this point? I'm a little worried about what to do with Jason Day.
Yeah, Jason Day played with Jason Scrivener there at the Zurich, and I will say Day looked pretty good ball striking, and Scrivener was making everything.
Yeah, they were up there for a while.
I mean, they were up there. Yeah, I think Day is on the list of golfers right now for me that I root for, that I just simply won't roster. We just haven't seen enough. I know he's 8.2, which is a better price, and I know he's 5% owned, which is good, which means he's gonna make my player pool. But if he's 5% owned, I probably won't get overweight. If he's 2% owned, I'll have double the field. So that kind of shows you where I am on Jason Day. Whereas Aaron Ryan, James Power, I think both of them are probably going to get close to 10% for me. I think that they're pretty solid plays this week.
Yeah, I'm on board with that for sure.
All right. So typically I'd move on to make the cut, but I just had to throw this last category in here for us. I'm going to call it the former stars turned scrubs. And it's, oh man, wait until you hear these three. Ricky Fowler, obviously, he's at 7,400 this week. I just mentioned Francesco Molinari. He's at 7,400 this week. And his lowest price in some time, especially in a field like this, Matthew Wolff at 7,000.
Oh boy.
If you had to pick one of the three to play, who would it be? And are you actually going to play that one person?
Wow. I mean, normally this would be clearly Ricky, even for me at this point, but as chat's pointing out, Ricky's my root for but don't play guy at this point.
I had a feeling Ricky was going to come up there. Yeah.
Honestly, it would be, and I know, it would be Wolff at flat 7 if I had to. I'm not saying I'm going to play him, but I still believe that Wolff is randomly going to turn the switch on at some point. And when he does, watch out. I still firmly believe in 2022, not like 2030 when we're on Mars and stuff. He's going to get it together before that. He'll be all right, even though it's been very bad.
Now, I know the college game is a lot different. Obviously, I'm not comparing it to the pro game, but he was never this inconsistent in his 2 years at Oklahoma State. He was always on the top of the leaderboard, rarely missing the cut if they even had one in college. I mean, it was just so good. I mean, plenty of guys. What do we got? We got something in chat that seems
apparently there's an echo. We don't hear it, or I don't hear it on my end.
From me?
Well, I don't hear it, but we'll don't worry. We got the best behind the glass. We'll figure it out.
Wolff am I turning robot voice again?
No, thank God.
It's coming from me. They can't. My headphones keep dying, and whenever my headphones die, like it's not even dying, it just keeps disconnecting. So whenever that happens, it messes y'all's audio. I'm sorry, chat. I don't know what's happening right now.
Guys, gonna get it back. Promise you guys, I'm not going robot voice. At least
thank God. I couldn't handle that tonight. I literally couldn't.
Oh my God, I remember that. That's some great stuff. I just see you burst out laughing in the middle of my.
That was too much. Oh my God. Anyway.
All right, let's go on and make the cut here. And before we do, we'll tell you about the sweet deal we've got going on with Yahoo, which, believe it or not, Ben, I actually made the best Yahoo lineup made last week using the picks that I give out and Fantasy Contra via Awesemo's projections. And then one of the things that I love about being able to use different sites, not just DraftKings, is if I have such leans on plays, but I can't get them all in on DraftKings, I can get them in on Yahoo or get them in on FanDuel, and I feel a little bit better about that. So if you want to go check them out and haven't already, you're going to get a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum just to sign up, make a deposit, and play in your first paid contest. They've just added another price point this week over on Yahoo, a $12 one that's going to give you 2,000 first place. That's a big contest. 4,000 first place. That's a $20. I hope we are fixing the headphones. Ty just threw his hands up in the air. So I'm going to guess that we're going. His dog has come in a couple of times. I want his puppy, his cute little puppy there. In any case, okay. That tells you about Yahoo. Again, I have found pretty good success over there. Also enjoy the DraftKings can be hard sometimes. I'm not going to lie to you. So it's nice to have that little break. Okay, now let's move on and make the cut and talk about Johnny Vegas and Keith Mitchell. Two very similar players, actually, in my eyes, Ben. They're both pretty good off the tee. Both can get hot with their irons, and both are okay putters. So what do you make of these two guys this week on a ball strikers course?
Yeah, I think that you mentioned that there's some things that set up pretty well for some of these guys. And there's a weird counterintuitive philosophy, and Johnny Vegas is at the top of the list for me, of guys that are really strong off the tee. And you would think, oh, they want to be on a course that's like 8,000 yards. Actually, no, they do better when they're at technical layouts like this because they can club down and still gain massively off the tee. And Keith Mitchell's kind of like that too. So I think Johnny Vegas sets up really well. We've seen him do this at, like the Players and Honda and things like that. He has a lot of what I want in terms of the skill set. I think he does make the cut and plays pretty well.
I think I like Doug Gim better than both of those guys, but I like him. Sure. I like them both. However, their ownership has scared me this week. If you guys check out our ownership projections, you guys can kind of see why. They're two of the higher owned golfers here under 8K. I see Mike Campbell talking in chat about, I don't know if you caught the NBA show this morning, Ben. I guess Luffy butchered my last name. So I've got, if Luffy
no respect.
Is watching, I've got something for him. Okay. Wizard of Oz, Roslin. Simple, easy. That's it.
Look at that. Easy
Wizard
game.
of Oz. Just switch Oz with Roz and then add the Lin at the end. That's it.
Yeah,
he's got it. So
Lin.
I got you next time, Dave. I totally understand, though. It's the weirdest last name. So I got you. It's totally understandable. Okay, Doug Gim, I just mentioned. Are you in okay with him? Or would you, honest to God, rather just play him in Showdown?
I'd probably rather play him in Showdown, but at the same time, he's going to be a perpetual tournament play when he's landing in the mid to upper sevens. I prefer Rye in Vegas, though, if I was ranking him.
Okay. Brian Harmon has done well, on tracks that we don't think. He's a former winner of this event, but it was at Eagle Point, which I'd rather it be at Eagle Point, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I wish it was at Quail Hollow. That's a double story for another day. Brian Harmon, he's a tough one for me. He's always a tough evaluation because he does a lot with the putter. He's lefty. Ball striking wise, it does come and go at times, and he's very erratic, but he's made 3 or 4 cuts. He's made 8 of 10 cuts. I think he's pretty reliable, almost cash worthy in some formats. So I have no problem. And I do think he once again finds the weekend.
Judging by the projected ownership, it seems like the biggest misprice of the week is Sepp Straka, who probably has earned a higher salary than 7,600 in a field like this, but DraftKings just has not done it yet, has not given it to him. So does he make the weekend, and does the form continue, or maybe have we seen the end of the Austrian's good form?
This guy, I will say he is playing a little over his head, only in the sense that his short game is truly out of control right now, and that's gonna regress. It's just going to.
So good right now. I'm every time I watch him play, he's around the green and he's hitting it to 2 or 3 feet from spots that I'm like, no way he's getting this close.
And he's not a notoriously strong around the green player. In fact, that's probably his weakest part of his game. So I do think he's going to make the cut, but I would caution Sepp Straka, who's just really, really playing well lately, and he broke through with a win. Some of the stats look wildly due for regression.
They do. I'm not going to lie. If it happens this week, so be it, which is why I would rather play a guy coming off of a week that he finally found his ball striking. And he's in the bucket with Ches Reavie, who I'll talk about later on the show as well, that when he finds form, Ben, he stays in it and plays well and racks up good starts. That's Lanto Griffin. I know you've been on him. I am on him this week. Are you joining me? Maybe a little high priced on DraftKings, but throughout the sites, it looks pretty good. Yeah,
again, that speaks to why, you can play at some of these different sites and you can get him over on Yahoo. He's in the low 30s. I think Lanto is fine. The tee to green game was much better in Mexico. for some reason, he's like the opposite of Straka. For some reason, his around the green game has been awful lately. It makes no sense. I expect positive regression, positive regression in the sense that he's going to get a lot better there. So I think Lanto does make the cut. This is just starting to get crowded though. And I'm going to have a lot of teams, perpetual builds that have 3 or 4 guys in that mid 7s. It's a good range to buy on.
I was actually going to ask you about that because last week you had Brandon Wu, you had Alex Smalley, and you had David Lipsky, all basically the same price. And if you ran on them, like you and I talk about doing sometimes, you would have been so far above the field because it's likely with that build, you would have found yourself the ROM. So you would have, just with those 4 guys, likely cashed. So let's throw those names in again. We've got Lanto, who already mentioned. Then we got Brandon Wu, CT Pan, and David Lipsky. I wrote Aaron Rye there. I apologize, Ben, if you're looking at the cheat sheet.
No problem. Yeah.
Lipsky. We got Griffin, Wu, Pan, Lipsky, even Long, who chat just mentioned. Who misses the cut? Who makes the cut? And who are you playing of those 5?
So I'm going to stick with CT Pan. I really liked him last week, and It was good. It was just solid. He came in 29th. I think he can replicate that. The hardest one for me is Brandon Wu. You got me on him last week. Fantastic play. He did gain 6 strokes putting, but he was also really good basically everywhere besides around the green. So this is a guy that seems to be finding it. 4 straight made cuts, 2 inside the top 5. I get it. I think the one for me that'll get squeezed is Lipsky. Hasn't done anything wrong by any stretch. I just think that, man, he did gain 10 strokes on the approach though. That is, God, I'm not going to have room for Lipsky, but I will say just looking at that kind of stopped me dead in my tracks. That's a lot of strokes gained on the approach.
Yeah, it sure is. For Wu, what I'm a little nervous about is that his strokes gained off the tee looked superb last week, but the fairways aren't going to be as wide this week. I just wonder, just like they are in the Dominican, right down there in Corrales, which was his other good finish. If I'm not, I think it was the Corrales one, not Puerto Rico. He played well at Puerto Rico last year. In any case, you see, it's kind of those island resort courses that probably favor little to no rough with, again, wider fairways. We're not going to get that at Avenel Farms this week at TPC Potomac. So again, I'm rooting for him. I've liked him for quite some time. I was glad to see the breakthrough last week and basically assured him of a second season on the PGA Tour. So maybe that'll give him a little comfort and we can see where he really, relies. Again, I've said this a couple times about him. He was competing against Wolf, Hovland, and Morikawa every single week, beating them some weeks in college. So let's see if the start last week can really propel him up to, I don't know about stardom, Ben, but certainly maybe upper echelon of the Cameron Young type of talent in him. So we'll see where it goes out. I think for all the guys we just mentioned, honestly, I don't normally say this. I think they all make the cut. I think Lahiri, however, which is the next name on my list, I think he might not be able to play the weekend. I think, again, the wideness fairways that we saw last week helped him. I don't think we get it here this week. So Lahiri would be my miss. What about Adam Long, though?
So Adam Long is another tricky guy. He's part of a long list of guys on the PGA Tour that to me win somewhat unexpectedly. And then you think you'll never hear from them again. And then in some regards, you're right. And then maybe they kind of have another resurgence. And he's kind of in the midst of that. He's made 6 of 7 cuts. He's gained 6 straight off the tee. The problem is his irons have been pretty bad and he is riding a hot putter. So I don't think it's the worst portfolio by any stretch. I do have him behind Pan, Wu, Merritt, who we didn't even mention in the same range, Lipsky, Straka, Dahman, a lot of names before I would click on him.
Yeah, and I'm just seeing in our chat, Benny Mack wants to talk about Brandon Matthews for a moment. I've got him on the list. I promise you he is coming up. Maybe
yeah, I'm going to have some hot takes on Brandon Matthews as soon as I Google him here.
Yeah, just quickly Google him. He's all but assured himself a PGA Tour card. He basically had no status anywhere, came in second after Monday qualifying for a Corn Ferry event, then won the next week, which when you come in first and second on that tour, you're basically assured a PGA Tour card. So he got a sponsor invite this week, so he'll get a little test of it. Here's the thing. I think I don't mean to generalize or put you to sleep with this talk of these players that you may not know. I don't want to.
I know Austin Matthews. I don't know Brandon Matthews, but okay.
But what I will say is that if you have a read on them, before they become Cameron Young, and they become Cameron Young, you can get paid on big time. I did it with Morikawa. I did it with Cantlay. I'm not saying Matthews is going to be the next one of these guys, but certainly they're worth paying attention to. I've got a list of 3 or 4 this week that I am going to talk to Ben about. So stay tuned if you like that type of stuff, because they are coming up right after we talk about Kurt Kitayama, who shows up again. I know it's crazy. These Euros are really finding their groove on here. Guys that you and I probably played for the last 4 years on that tour. Kitayama, Lipsky, and Rye were guys that I roster every week over on that tour. Finally getting it done, Ben. I really got to say I'm impressed with them. But I think what we're seeing is a second place finish, a bunch of miscuts, a third place finish, whatever it is. And if you want to play them, you got to play them every week and just deal with the miscuts. That would be my advice on these guys.
I would agree. It's impossible to pinpoint. I don't really, I mean, I said crazy things about Kitayama last week, and then he almost won. So that could have been very painful, but I do think there's a lot of flash in the pan with some of these guys. Not that they can't do it. It's just very hard to find sustainability. And I don't really see it. Very hard to pinpoint, as you mentioned. So not for me this week. I prefer Schwab in the same range. I prefer Denny McPutts, a lot of other guys there.
All right, let's talk about 2 guys. I see chat bringing up Tyler Duncan right now. Okay, and I know that in the 2 rounds that he played, he lost 4 strokes putting while gaining 3 strokes on the approach. So I'm going to raise chat. I'm going to raise them. They're going to throw out Tyler Duncan at me. I'm going to throw back at them Chad Ramey, who lost 6 strokes putting in 2 rounds while gaining 3.5 strokes on the approach. So do you want to go with Chad and Tyler Duncan, or do you want to go with me and Chad Ramey this week?
I am a sucker for Tyler Duncan. He's another guy. It's the same list. Guy breaks through, and then where does he go? And Chad Ramey is on that list, but we haven't seen where he went because he only won last month.
Yep.
I'd probably back Ramey. I know it hasn't been good since Corrales, 41st, 59th, and a miscut, but the stats are all over the map. I don't have a ton of interest in either of these guys because I don't think I really need to land in this range a ton. And I have a couple of names that I like better, but I would go with Ramey over T-Dunks this week.
Grayson Sig has done everything to earn himself solid paychecks every single week. He's not losing money, but he's not giving us top end form. So would you throw him in a cash lineup at this point? 13 of 17 cuts since the, coming on tour. It's really solid. 7K. Or would you do something else? Would you not play him at all? What's your stance on Grayson Sig?
Yeah, I think it has to be the right lineup. Safety is a very difficult word to put into golf because there is no safe. It's very hard to make a cut no matter what. If I had a lineup with 5 guys and I've leveraged and I've got some wild upside, I wouldn't be super upset about sliding in Grayson Sig because I still believe it's not like he can't, come in 10th or 8th or 6th. It's just more often than not, he makes the cut and he kind of trends to the middle of the pack. And that can still be okay, particularly if it's difficult conditions and there's not streaks and bonuses as much as we're used to seeing.
Speaking of streaks and bonuses, this guy is like the king of them. That's what he does. He scores in bunches. Last week, I think I was looking, he was 3 over at one point, and I'm like, all right, I can just X out my lineups with him in it. Next thing I turned, he's 3 under because he went eagle, birdie, eagle, or some crazy thing like that. That's just kind of, what he does. And then he did nothing the rest of the week. So I'm okay with it. I like him. I think he's a solid. If you do play cash, I wouldn't mind going this low if you had to. Other guy I want to talk about, Ches Reavie. He busted out of some terrible form with a tie for 13th last week while gaining strokes with his putter around the green and heavily on the approach. But as I've said to you many times in the past with him, and I think you're on my camp with me as well with this, is that he's a form golfer pretty much wherever he plays. And when he's in form, he plays well. He only hit 60% of his fairways last week, and they were wide. So do you think that will hurt him this week if that continues? Or do you think that maybe goes back to his average, which is much closer to 70% than it is 60?
I am a little worried just because it wasn't an outlier in the sense that he had lost in 5 straight events off the tee before that. It was even worse last week.
Yeah.
But that's a glaring concern. And Ches is a form golfer. He did flip the irons. He had lost in 6 straight on the approach, and then he gained 5 strokes in Mexico. So that's a positive. I think he can make the cut. I'm just not sure that I'm honing in on him or a priority. If I have to get there, so be it. But I don't think I'm super comfortable with Ches in the same breath.
Yeah. 6,700. He's in my player pool this week.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm definitely starting. I think the par 70 turns me on. I mean, we know his success, obviously, at Travelers. We know his success, obviously, at AT, Pebble Beach. That was the U.S. Open. Actually, it wasn't the AT&T. It was just Pebble Beach at the U.S. Open. So I guess Gary Woodland and Ches Reavie make a good stack. I don't know, but they certainly did that week. All right, let's go on to my couple of names that I wanted to talk to Ben about that I know he knows one of them because this guy has been around for a couple of years and was supposed to be the next Colin Morikawa before Morikawa was Morikawa. And I'm talking about Norman Jong, who finds his way into a Monday qualifying, Ben, and he's back. The joke when I tweeted out from the email that I got from DraftKings letting me know that he was in the field and added to the player pool was that the Live Golf Series should target him. It seems like a pretty good target for that tour, number one amateur or former number one amateur in the world finding form again. But you can't imagine Norman Jong making the cut this week, right? Or has something changed? Is the one Monday qualifier enough to get him back into some type of form?
I mean, I am a pretty big believer. So I think there's a lot of things to say here. One, this is the other side of the coin that you talked about earlier. For every Morikawa, there is Norman Jongs who just don't get it together early. They may never get it together. But then for every guy like that, there's plenty that they go on tour, they don't have it, they go away for a little bit, then they come back and they're much better. It clicks. And I think that Norman Jong still has a very real chance to be a really good player. I'm just not sure that I want to back it right now. If he starts to make a couple cuts, like Justin Sue kind of had that going on for a little bit, I think Norman Jong could be fine. I just don't know if I need a flat 6K. So I think he has a shot to make the weekend, but he will not be in my player pool.
Yeah, speaking of Justin Sue, get ready to talk about him come the fall. Looks like he's trending in the right direction on the Korn Ferry Tour. He's ranked number 18th right now. So maybe we'll see him next year. A couple of other guys that I want to talk about. So Turk Petit, help me, chat. Just help me with this last name, please. But, Ben.
I can't help you. Go ahead.
Won the 2021 NCAA Championship. Have we heard this before? Intent Norman Jong. Made the cut last week. Looked decent at times and then just couldn't hold it together. Started on the Form Tour or the Canadian Tour when he first broke out of college and actually tore it up, which got him Korn Ferry Tour status where he hasn't made many cuts this season. So obviously to win an NCAA championship, you got to be a pretty good golfer. There's no doubt about that. We don't know much about him at all other than that he won and then he made the cut last week. So do you want to stick with the hot form? You got a sponsor exemption, obviously did enough last week to impress and get the invite here this week.
Yeah, again, these guys are very talented. They just don't have the experience and probably have some holes in the game. I think here you need to work backwards. If you're convinced that Rory is going to win, but you want to play Finau as well, and it's going to be a battle like that, now you start to get into the realm that you might need someone down here. If you want to play 4 guys in the 9s or something, you might need one of these guys. If that's not the case, I just don't know why I would do it. I could find guys a couple $100 more that have played on the tour for years and years, and I'm more comfortable doing that.
So Jacob Bridgman, the number 2 ranked golfer on the PGA Tour University, which means he'll be on the Korn Ferry Tour next year. He's getting an invite this week. Same scenario. And then one last guy, number 4 ranked amateur in the world. We've actually seen this guy make a cut already. Eugenio Chacarra. We'll just stick with that. He's got another name there. He's from Spain. Either of those 2 guys ever cross your wavelength, and could you see yourself playing them this week?
So some of these dudes, I actually know who they are. I've just never played them. The last 2 you named, I literally don't know who they are. So I'm not playing them. If I had to play any of these guys, it would definitely be Norman Jong because I've seen him on tour and I've seen him been close and I know who he is. To me, again, I would just rather play who I'll give you a name. Let's say, man, I shouldn't have said that because David Lingworth is down here. Like Chesson Hadley or Wawrinski or Bryson Nimmer if
Nimmer?
I had to.
Okay.
That guy was pretty good.
He was okay last week. It was so funny that PGA Tour live commentators, because he was on, I forgot who he was playing with, but he was playing with somebody and he was on it. He was like, this guy Bryson Nimmer walks around with a lot of swag. So I was interested to see what he meant by that. Let's go back. Benny Mac, thanks for the super chat, buddy. Appreciate it. Let's talk about Brandon Matthews.
Okay.
Again, I will take the exact same stance of we don't know what they're going to translate onto the PGA Tour. It could be quick. It could be slow. Here's what I know. He's missed the cut in the last 3 Korn Ferry Tour events. So yes, maybe getting his first PGA Tour start of his career will motivate him, but the form isn't that good right now. That's for sure. Let's see. I mean, I don't believe he's all that young either. I see stats from back in 2017 of him playing on the Korn Ferry Tour. So if I had to say, for me, I'd pick probably Turk Petit or Norman Jung over Brandon Matthews right now. But certainly, don't get me wrong, we're going to see him next year. So this is a good place for him to at least get some experience.
Yeah. And I also think there's a very big difference between rostering guys and not paying attention. Like, I think it's really important to take note of what these guys are doing. You just don't have to roster them right off the bat. You can say, wow, okay, this guy's better than I thought. He made the cut a couple of straight weeks. Now I'm going to buy, rather than saying like, I have to do it right now. And I'm a little more wait and see with them. But again, roster construction will dictate that.
I thought Mike Campbell just asked us in chat if Grayson Murray was here, and no. And I thought for a little bit of time last week that we were going to get a Murray pairing over the weekend, but we didn't get it. Sadly,
we did not. Sadly.
All right, I think that'll do it for the long shots of golfers that you probably have never heard of that are in here playing this week. There are more, but even I'm not going to look that far into them. If I missed somebody, if chat has somebody that they think I should have mentioned here, let me know. I'm all about finding and loving these golfers that nobody else knows about. So please let us know. So let's move on to the betting card here this week. Last one, obviously. It was a great week for the hot takes in the betting card for me. Having Brandon Wu as a top 5, that paid 25-1. That was awesome.
Real good one.
And then I ended up getting him again at the exact same price on going into round 4. So crazy week. So let's see if I can make it 2 in a row. I'm going to go with Rory, first round leader. He's 20-1 going out at 7:41 tomorrow morning. He's done it a few times this year. And I made a joke, but kind of serious at the same time, Ben. He leads my strokes gained emotion leaderboard. And what I mean by that was he showed some pretty raw emotion after the Sunday at Augusta performance, just talked about how much he loves golf and how appreciative he is. The last time he did that was at the Ryder Cup, his very next start at I think it was the CJ Cup. He won. He sees Rahm go out there and win one that he was supposed to win. So I've got Rory winning it again this week, 8-1 there. Or at least being in the top 5. I've also got Gary Woodland, 36-1. I think this week, which differs from last week, he's not going to have to make enough putts, or he's not going to have to make a ton of putts to compete. Last week, 17 under. I mean, you got to putt well to come in the top 10. Only Tony Finau lost strokes putting in the top 10 last week. So I think Gary turns the putt around a little bit more this week because not as many putts will be hold. Like him, 36-1. Homa is a guy that I'd like to back. We haven't seen a top 5 yet. I think he's trending in the right direction, though. Hasn't missed a cut since the Farmers. Cameron Young, I've already talked about. Those are going to be my main guys with Wu, Lipsky, and Cam Davis. Here's a guy you and I have not talked about. 7,200 this week, coming off RBC where he came in 3rd, which was really a parlay to getting to the weekend at the Masters by birdieing 18. I mean, it's just been a good stretch. I'm going to back him again at triple digits this week, Ben. We didn't get to talk about him up top. Are you joining me there? You think it's a good price?
I am. He is in the Johnny Vegas bucket where you don't think that this would be a good course. Heritage just showed this. He forces himself not to be over aggressive. And when he is, he gets himself into big trouble. I think this can be that for him. He's got the talent. He's an Aussie. Not all of them are good in nasty weather, but I do think generally it helps if you have experience playing in Australia with the wind. So I'm okay with Cam Davis. I think it's a pretty interesting bet and a pretty interesting play at 7,200.
Now, our odds shopper has been a godsend to me these last 2 weeks because I love finding the best values. And Lanto Griffin was a guy I already brought up to you that I wanted to get behind. Yep. I go on Odds Shopper, I click his name, so it brings up the best odds on every bet on him this week. And FanDuel is offering 150 to 1 on the outright market. Now, do I think Griffin is going to win this weekend? No, but it reverberates down to his each way bets as well. So take a look at Lanto Griffin. My bombs for the week, Ches Reavie I already mentioned, but Trey Mullinex, I didn't. A fantastic week ball striking last week. Does the switch to bent grass help his terrible short game that we saw?
So when guys are really struggling like that, regardless of what surface they're going to, if it's different, I think that's a good thing.
It's got to be, right?
It can't be. You don't want to get into a bad rhythm. So let's just hard reset. Will it flip it? I have no idea, but I'm a firm believer. If you are struggling with the short game, give me a new surface and I'm more prone to play you.
Agreed. Okay. Got this question a few times this week. So before we go into lineup builds and our hot takes, we'll cover this. Been asked, who are the good, bad weather players? All right. And whenever we look at these type of splits, typically we find that the best golfers play the best no matter the condition.
Yep.
However, there are some outliers on the other side that just don't play well at all in bad conditions. I've mentioned Colin Morikawa and Patrick Cantlay as my number 1, 2. I follow them the most out of anybody. They are terrible in windy, bad conditions. They have not shown me once in their career that they've played well during them. Neither of them are here this week, but can we find others? Maybe. Do I lean specific type of golfers if it's going to be extremely bad weather? And when I say bad weather, I think we need to make clear, it really only means wind, Ben, right? Because over the time, I know that you've been doing this, I think you can see rain doesn't affect these guys.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. So if we don't have sustained wind of 20 plus miles an hour, do we need to worry about it this week?
I think the problem is that it's just a very kind of like loaded question because the weather fluctuates and sometimes we chalk the week up to bad weather, but maybe the guy didn't play in bad weather. Generally, I think just I know it's not exact science. I think Europeans and Australians have a leg up. Guys like Lipsky, Kitayama, guys who play in Europe, they get crazy conditions over there more often than not. But I think the general thing, you mentioned it, guys who are grinders, guys with good short games, because more wind means less greens in regulation, which means more scrambling opportunities. So if you're a good around the green player, generally you will outperform guys getting up and down for par. And that's what we'll see this week potentially.
For sure. Okay, now let's go to our lineup builds here before I get into our hot takes. Chat, if we have missed your question and you are dying to get an answer, now is the time to ask it. Or if we don't get to it here, find us on Twitter at DFSGolfer23 or at JazzRazDFS. Also, Ben, if they are part of the Awesemo Plus Platinum package, they can find us on Discord. And if I miss anybody's question on Discord, that's where my friends chat to me too. So I'm going between channels. Just message me on Twitter and I'll go find it. I promise you, I'm not the best at Discord yet. I'm getting better though. Okay, let's go our lineup builds here. Let's start off with Rory McIlroy and Tony Finau. I know that's going to be a little tough, Ben, but we saw last week, if you went Rahm Finau, you were forced to go into a range which had a bunch of golfers play well. So I'm going to see if we can do that again this week. I'm not sure if we can. If we start with them, we're left with roughly 7,000 per player. So would you go to Mullinex here? Would this be an okay spot to use somebody at 6,500 and get that salary, kind of help?
Yeah. I think you go to Mullinex or you could go to Chase Seifert, who's also 65. He had a bad miscut last week. He was rolling and then he crumbled on Friday. I think you put in Mullinex though. We're already up north of 7. Yep. Now we got a lot of options. There's plenty of guys that we can go to. Grayson Sig maybe for stability. Yep. And then, you got 2v2s. Is there anyone else that stands out though?
Well, Cam Davis is at 7,200 right there. So I think that would be,
okay.
Yeah, that would be an easy one to throw in. Now we're left with 7,100 per player if we don't put in Sig. If we put in Sig, we're left with Schwab, which is obviously going to be my click here for Schwab. We go way back, him and yes. I'm not sure. See, I look at the Valero, and I think that's a pretty decent comp for this week, and he came in a tie for 8th. So I guess that's probably a pretty good GPP lineup as well. So again, other options there. If you don't like Schwab, you've got Kitayama, Luke List. If he can make any type of putts at 7,100, seems like a decent price, right, for Luke List? Or is the form just that bad?
I mean, it's Luke List, so he's someone sneaky good scrambler in the sense that, or I should say, sneaky good around the green because he never converts his scrambles because he can't putt. But right. I think that's another guy, Luke List. He fits right in this type of build.
Well, Hostler, we haven't talked about him, but
dear God,
you know, he's kind of on that miscut top 10, miscut.
He's like Kitayama.
10. Yeah, he's just like Kitayama. Yeah, this is a tough one. All right. We said Grayson Sig and Matt Schwab. So that's what I'm going with for that lineup there. We've talked about plenty of other 2v2s, but I'm just going with our first one. Okay, let's go Rory solo dolo here. I think for me, if I'm starting Rory solo, my next click is definitely Max Homa. So that kind of leaves the board open for you. Where would you like to go here?
I'm going to double up right there. I'm going to put Sergio in that lineup. I think we can still get that done. There are other punt plays that we can get to. So you've got Rory, you got Max Homa, you got Sergio Garcia. You're still left with basically 7,000 for 3 players. You can go in a lot of different directions.
Yeah, I think List, we didn't use him on the last one, would be an interesting one to use here. We didn't use Seifert on the last one. I think that would be an interesting one to use here. And then we're left with 7,600. So I like Lanto Griffin, but his price on FanDuel is 8,800. His price on Yahoo is in the low 30s. So I'd like to skip him. So would you go Joel Damon? I think you mentioned him in the chat. That would be your pick here this week.
It would be Joe Dahmen or CT Pan. I think both of those guys. There's just a lot of names here. If you land in the mid 7s, don't worry about it. You can click a lot of names and feel pretty comfortable.
Yeah. This is the spot. I believe I was corrected. This is the infamous Joel Damon versus Sung Kang event, if I'm not mistaken.
I was talking about that on Monday, actually.
Were you? Yeah.
Yeah, Sun Kang loves this place. Part of the reason might be because of his drop etiquette at this place, but his results here when they played at Quicken Loans were absolutely fantastic.
I remember Joel Damon saying he argued till he was blue. All right, let's do one last one before we get on to our hot takes, though, without Rory. So if we're going without Rory, we've already used Finau. Who would be your third person if we don't want to use the same guy up top?
So I'd go fade the 10Ks and start with Hatton. I think that makes a lot of sense. You have plenty of salary to do a million different things. You can use Woodland in there if you want 2 9K guys. It's a different type of build. I kind of like that starting point with Hatton.
Ryer Gim.
Yeah, I'd say Gim.
Okay, we'll go Gim here.
Live a little. Yeah,
we'll live a little. We love a little Dougie Gim in our life. Okay, so it's actually 7,700 per player doing this. Keith Mitchell or Johnny Vegas? I don't want to do both.
Vegas.
Okay. And that's going to leave us 7,700 per player. Pan, Wu, or Lipsky?
So we kind of advocated for a couple of them on the last team. I think Brandon Wu. So actually, you know what I want to do? I want to get Cam Young on this team. I think we can do that instead of Vegas, maybe.
Yes, we can, for sure.
Cam Young is just a really good lay this week.
And then you can go back to that range where there's Wu Pan, Wu Lipsky if you want.
Yeah. And again, endless options in that same range. That's a great way to build.
Yep. Love it. Let's do you like Pan and I choose Wu for me. So we'll Pan over Lipsky for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Like it. Love it. There it is. Ty, thank you for building with us there. Appreciate you keeping us up. I know we go in a couple different directions. We've done pretty well in these. I know some of you have joined me as I've looked up the duplicate reports. That's totally fine. We like to give you 2v2s with the last couple. We're not trying to just give out, an exact lineup. If we land on the same one, great. I hope we split the top prize. All right, let's go to our hot takes as it's just after 9 o'clock here on Wednesday night. I'm going to guess we get a little bit of overlay this week. Maybe not. We certainly did get some last week, which was a nice treat. We don't ever get that in PGA DFS. So, all right, on to our hot takes. I already mentioned that I don't think you need to make as many putts to compete here this week. In Gary Woodland's form, ball striking has been trending back towards pretty elite. So I think Gary Woodland wins this week instead of missing the cut, which I had him do last week. I'm totally reverting, going Gary Woodland wins. And I've got Trey Mullinax finding form on the bent grass greens for a top 10 this week.
So I'm going to go a little different direction because I'm totally on board with that. And I do think this tournament is going to be won by one of the bigger players. So I'm not going to go crazy hot take there. Kevin Chappell.
Yeah.
I think that he could be sneaky this week. He's 14-1 for a top 10.
Okay.
He was playing really well. He was 15th at Corrales, 18th at Valero. Then he withdrew from the Mexico Open. It looked like, from what Chad told me yesterday, his wife had a baby. So I don't think it's injury related. He should be good to go. It's nothing with the back. Everything looks good strokes gained wise. And Kevin Chappell is quietly getting it together at 6,700. I think this could be a really good spot. The ball striking was really good at Valero. It was gained 3.2 strokes tee to green, another 2.5 with the putter. 14-1 for a top 10. Sign me up.
Yeah, and here's the guy that certainly is playing for his career right now. I think he's playing under major medical and
major medical
in the 126 to 150 category from that. So he doesn't get a ton of starts. Congratulations.
And he's a player. Like, if you're new to PGA DFS, you're probably saying, who the hell is Kevin Chappell? Kevin Chappell was a legitimate top player week in and week out. He could really play. And then he had major back surgery.
Major. Yeah. Kept him out for like a whole year, maybe even longer. In fact, Graham Dillette had the exact same surgery, has never come back from it. So just goes to show you certainly what those players can do. There's a Graham Dillette reference for the chat there. If you've been playing PGA DFS long enough, you know about the chipping yips of Graham Dillette. All right, I think that's going to do it. We've got just 2 weeks until PGA Championship week. This one's a different one, obviously, over in Maryland at the Potomac. Then we go to Dallas, or I think for the week for the Charles Schwab Challenge, I want to say.
Yep.
And then it's PGA up in Oklahoma at Southern Hills. So that'll be great. And I got a call from my buddy that does a lot of landscaping work in Boston and was driving through the country club today for the US Open. The stands are up and the course is looking mint. So look forward to that in about a month's time. Love that course. Love that event. So we've got a ton of great stuff coming up for PGA DFS and golf betting, but also among the world of sports. There's so much going on right now. Ben, I hope you have a great weekend with the Derby. Hit the trifecta, the exacta, hit them both. I will be joining you. Whatever picks you put out, I am going to be joining you on them. So let's root together. So any parting words for our friends and fans here tonight, Ben?
No, as always, good luck. Get on in for that week with the Luca promo. Again, awesemo.com/promos, and head over to OddsShopper. Check out all the betting content, particularly the Kentucky Derby. But yeah, good luck, everybody. And of course, we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, for sure, everybody. All right, make sure you like and subscribe on your way out. Cheers. We'll see you on the other side.